Hi, everybody. It's Ben Packer in the Old City of Jerusalem, and we're launching a new podcast series called Ben Packer Explains It. So our first topic is going to be Birthright. Birthright Israel. Right now it's the summer after COVID to some degree, and there's a lot of Birthright trips here in Israel. A lot of people coming on Birthright trips, tens of thousands, I guess. And Birthright's been existing already over 20 years. So a lot of people have come on Birthright trips, virtually a whole generation. So what's the deal? What's the deal with Birthright? So I'm going to explain what I think the deal is with Birthright. So it's like this. So what's the point of Birthright? Right? So that depends on who you ask. Here's who you ask. Israelis generally believe the point of Birthright is to encourage Jews from around the world to make Aliyah. That's true. That's what they really think. Okay? Outside of Israel, most people think the point of Birthright is to strengthen Jewish identity, to cause people with Jewish heritage to identify as Jewish. Okay? Now, within that, there are some smaller interests of different parties. One would be that young Jewish people will be more pro-Israel, right, on campus and in their daily lives. Another one would be people want people to become more religious, right? That's another interest that people have within the Birthright thing, that they invest in the Birthright programs because they want people to become religiously observant. That's their goal. So those are kind of the goals of Birthright, so to speak. Right now, if we talk about how many people from Birthright, of all the people who've done Birthright, which is, a few 100,000, right? If we talk about people who've made Aliyah, gone to the army, and become religious, we're talking about a very small percentage, a negligible percentage. Okay, very, very small. There are people, we all know people like this, of course, but if you take the actual percentages, it's incredibly, incredibly small. Okay, that's the first point. So when we're talking about people who are making Aliyah, making serious life choices as a result of this trip, we're talking about a very negligible number. Okay, that's number one. Now, what about intermarriage? Right, that is a big for a lot of people thought when it comes to the Birthright trip, it's supposed to prevent intermarriage, and Birthright claims to some degree that they do prevent intermarriage. I find this highly unlikely. Okay, I don't think the statistics back this up at all. Of course, you have a solid number of people coming on Birthright trips who are observant, right? So I would say just get them out completely. No indication the Birthright trip would ever have anything to do with who they marry. That just doesn't make any sense. So those people out of the equation right away. Okay, that leaves everybody else. Okay, now everybody else who goes on the Birthright trips, I don't think there's any difference in percentage of intermarriage between if you went on Birthright or if you didn't. That rate is something around 70%, right? And that's a high percentage, obviously, but that's what it is. More Jewish people marry non-Jews than marry Jews, and that's the reality, specifically in America. And it's other places as well, not so great, but America. Let's talk about America mainly. That's where most of the participants are coming from. So you get that 70% intermarriage rate, right, which has not changed. It has not changed in the 20 years of Birthright. That rate is still relatively the same. Okay? So what do we make of all this? What's the point? So it's like this, I think. From my perspective, what I see. You do have 30% of the people who've gone on Birthright trips marrying Jews. Yeah, 30%. And of the 70%, you do have a certain percentage that will be raised Jewish, regardless of whether they are or not. Okay, forget about that for a second. But, okay, so there is some kind of number here, right, of people who are going to be raised Jewish, right, sometimes with two Jewish parents, sometimes with one, and their parent, one or both, have been on Birthright, right, because a high percentage of American Jews, young Jews, have been on Birthright at this point. Right? So you're going to have a situation that did not exist in previous generations, where oftentimes both parents, at least the ones who have two Jewish parents, have been on Birthright. That means that they have shared experiences, right? Even if they weren't on the same trip together, obviously, right? They've both been to the Western Wall. They've both floated in the Dead Sea. They've both seen the horrors at Yad Vashem, right? They've both slept in a Bedouin tent. Okay, that was a joke. That's kind of a stupid thing to do. Okay, whatever. Not important. Those other experiences that actually do have meaning, right? They share those experiences. The parents. right? And they're going to theoretically, presumably, want their kids to also have those experiences, right? They're going to be together on that. And with the parent who's only one Jewish person, okay, so I don't know whatever the situation is over there, but it could also be that that person had such a strong experience on Birthright that they'll want their kid to also have that experience. Obviously, that won't be as powerful where both parents have the shared experience, but nonetheless, it may still exist. So that's where it will matter. What happens with the 30% of people that marry fellow Jews and both parents have been to Israel? Like in previous generations, it was rare for both parents or even one parent to have been to Israel while they're raising their kids, right? Before they raise their kids. But today and in the future, the norm will be that Jewish parents have been to Israel, likely on Birthright, and have those shared experiences and want to theoretically pass those on to their kids. Will they succeed in doing that, and will that enable them to continue their Jewish identity? And that responsibility is not Birthright's. That falls on the responsibility of the American Jewish community. The synagogues, the youth groups, the organizations, those people, those groups, they have the responsibility to locate these people with the two Jewish parents and the Birthright experience and connect them into the Jewish community. That was what it will determine the future of the American Jewish community as we know it, especially the one outside of the very observant communities. The future of those people will be dependent on how the American Jewish community, organized American Jewish community, interacts and facilitates the activity of these 30% and slightly more who have been on Birthright and raising their children as Jews. That is where it will be determined whether this program is successful or not. No one should kid themselves about everybody marrying Jewish and everybody raising their kids Jewish and everybody making Aliyah and everybody becoming religious and everybody going to the Israeli army and all these, that's okay. There are people like that. It's negligible. It's important, but it's negligible. And what matters will be how this 30%, how they interact with the American Jewish community. That will make the difference. That's my take on Birthright. Hope you got something out of this.